Let's see. Hello, everybody. It's going live. Let's give it on time to get on over to Facebook. All the delays that always happen and the resharing and the groups. You really do get the broadcasting going so you can get to multiple places at one time. But at the same time, then everything else has to line up as well. So I know that you already had some people excited to get on here today, Sarah. So it's exciting that we have people that were ready. And so we'll just give a little bit more time for people to log on.
Absolutely.
And get this shared into some different groups as well. So everybody that's out there, welcome. Hopefully you're having a fabulous Wednesday wherever you are in this planet. Type in the comments, let us know that you're here. We are using StreamYard in order to broadcast this out to you via Facebook and YouTube on Enlightened Circles and other platforms. But if you're coming in from Facebook, there's a link, give your permissions as well. Let Facebook know. We're going to be bringing up your comments as you decide to join and be a part of this so that we can actually have you celebrate your greatness, your light, your conversation with us as well and with everyone else. So we'll be posting these up on the broadcast as we go along here. But type in, let us know where you guys are coming in from. If you're in from the UK, like beautiful, amazing Sarah here. If you're in from the States, wherever you are in the world, send us a hello, send us a good morning, send us a good afternoon, evening. Love to hear from you. And where are you? Where are you since we all saw you last week as well? So my beautiful, amazing guest on Migrate Your Mindset today on Enlightened Circles is the fabulous Sarah Ross, which she is an author, and discuss your reason to breathe. And Sarah, I need to make an apology here real quick. The other day when we were on Tuesday night, I was talking and saying she works in HR, which in a sense, it's a form of HR. Yes. I have no idea why I said this, but she did compliance and ethics, right? So she was a compliance officer in ethics. So more so HR had to come and get her advice, the regular HR department. But I just that came out. And after we were talking about it, I was like, you know what? I just realized I said that. But, even more so, it gives credibility to who you are and what you do and what you talk about with your reason to breathe, because you're always being that compliance officer and that ethics. And I think with what we all do, especially when we're talking about migrating our mindset, as well as we're trying to do migrating our mindset from an ethical standpoint of view, from our soul point of view, from all these beautiful places that we have within that's lighted, but yet we feel like we always have to comply and be in that compliance with what does our company want? What does everyone else want? Which actually, what does our family want? What does our husband, wife, partner, lover want? Children? And that sometimes leads us to that burnout. And that was definitely a path you were on. So this is the perfect thing for us to be discussing on Migrate Your Mindset. Welcome and thank you. Woo!
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me on again. And yeah, what you were saying, we have these roles and we tend to migrate to the ones that fit us most comfortably. And for me, that was, I was an auditor, I studied law at college. I became an auditor, a chartered accountant. I worked as an internal auditor for many years and then headed into ethics and compliance, and all very much roles where there's a black and white line. Playing in the gray is not necessarily, as easy as it might be. And then, you find yourself burning out. And that is definitely in one of those gray areas that, there are definitions out there. It's about 15 months since the World Health Organization actually gave standard definitions when it listed burnout as a workplace phenomenon. Now, when they announced that 15 months ago, they certainly couldn't have envisaged that 15 months later, workplace would have taken on a whole new definition. Workplace is now any place. And so something that, 15 months ago was kind of going to be according to job and office and only could happen where you were a employee, actually now takes on a whole different, dimension to it, in that workplace could be anything. And right. Chronic stress can happen whether you are a parent, a spouse, a mom, a dad, a teenager, an employee, anybody who does a regular activity has a workplace. Creative people, whether it's a studio or whether it's out in nature taking photos or painting, those are work spaces. And if we look at it like that, anything where we no longer want to be in that space can be as a result of burnout.
Yes. You know, you were saying some very important parts about how our workspace, if you think about it, our workspace has really been redefined even now with COVID-19. And workspace used to generally be your office, your cubicle, your whatever. But now this workspace has turned into this morphed living space as well, right? And you used to
Yeah.
have your work family and then your home family. And now it's like all in one. So, you know, as go get into that with what you're talking about.
So, workspace, workplace, as potentially these definitions gave us a little over a year ago, you can almost imagine that people meant them for somewhere that you go and swipe in and swipe out at the end of the day, and you have a cubicle or an office or a work, you have a desk space in a building, and that's where you work. And you can only burn out if you are at work. And it's like, yeah, but let's take that mom at home looking after the kids. She is working. She may not be paid a salary for it, but
Right.
she has a routine. She has daily things that have to be completed. And even for her, chronic stress can build up and she can burn out. You know, too many activities on the schedule, too many things that she needs to do, not enough support, not enough time for her personally to recharge, and she's at risk of burnout. Professional athletes burn out. Their offices look very different. Athletics track, swimming pool, gymnastics. I don't even know what you call a gymnastics place. Studio, club,
Jim.
gym. That's the one. Um, but those are also workspaces, and people can burn out in them, for the same reasons as somebody can at work. And like you mentioned there, COVID-19 has gone, you know what? Let's just put you all in one space and do everything in that space. And all those stresses that you used to spread over 4 or 5 different spaces, or let's have all of those in one space too.
Yes.
And then let's add on a culture or uncertainty in the world outside for so many different reasons. And let's put that over the top of your workspace and your stress now being smushed together. And then let's see if you can be normal.
And then the question is, what is normal?
Yeah,
Right? Especially when
what
you're
is
out,
normal?
what's your normal? What's your norm?
Exactly. And so, people have been challenged during this time, not just by the restrictions on them, but the things that they have now had time to do. So, being here in the UK, when we locked down, we were allowed out, for the first 7 weeks, we were allowed out once a day for exercise.
Yeah, that's just nuts. Like, I mean, like a personal mindset, like from energetic standpoint, emotional standpoint, of physical, what your body needs and what your body was already accustomed to. That's just nuts to think that you were trapped. Because at that point, you're the trapped. You're the hamster in the cage now, not just on the hamster wheel. Because at least when you were on the hamster wheel with work or life or everything else, we kind of were, we took the hamster wheel with us wherever we went, right?
Yeah.
Now they just said, no, we're just going to confine you to a certain spot. And 1 hour a day, I couldn't do that. I would
30
go
minutes. To
freaking
start with, it was
nuts.
30 minutes.
Yeah, I would go nuts.
And for me, I was one of the fortunate ones in that I have a garden space. So I could at
Yes.
least, go outside, have a cup of tea, be outside in my garden, which is completely enclosed. But there were people for whom there is no outdoor space. And so those 30 minutes, up to an hour perhaps, was the only time they were actually moving around or taking time for themselves, whether it was with their families or whether they went out for a run, a cycle, to actually get some exercise. That's a very small percentage of the day when you know that as soon as you get back from that, all of the situations and issues that have been causing you more stress suddenly kick in again. It's when are the groceries coming? Did I get an online shopping slot? Can I manage the kids' homeschool? You know, teachers train for 4 years plus to be able to do that on a daily basis. And suddenly you
Right.
have parents who have not been trained, they are not professional teachers, having to be the ones to teach their children topics, which for some of them, they may not have touched those topics since they were in high school.
Well,
And things
with
change.
it does, things do change, right? And so what you're talking about is we're bringing our whole life into like a prison cell, but we're still
Yep.
expected to, at least when you go to prison, you don't have all the other responsibilities. And I'm not saying that, I'm just saying, like you don't have other things in life, right? Or when you go on vacation, you don't have the same responsibilities or something that normally you would have, and you're confined to a hotel room, but even then you have it. But now we're like kind of going into a prison cell. And when you had that option to only be out 30 minutes a day or 1 hour for exercise, in the UK or everyone else in your prospective countries, cities, because it wasn't just by country,
Mhm.
it was by like states, providence, regions, cities, right? All these different rules, regulations. So everyone got limited where you're still having to make what normally your outside environment would do, life come into this tiny little square, right here, and be right here all day, every day. And that really has led so many more people to burnout in so many different ways. It's created a new stress, anxiety, education, like you said. Now we're having to learn how to be educators as well because we want to better our children, but we might not have that skill set. We don't understand maybe that there's a reason that as they hold a pen, if you don't hold the pen right at certain ages, it creates learning disabilities or delayed learning along the way. But a teacher is trained to see those, to grasp that,
Mhm.
to incorporate that and bring that in. So now as we go, we're like we're really in a rat race at this point, trying to learn things and catch up on different aspects. In certain ways, it's good. It makes us more of a complete human being, I guess, if you want to say it that way. But in other ways, it really leads us to more stress and more anxiety and less hours in the day that we maybe would have been spending with family relaxing. Now we're trying to do other things that, teachers, like you said, they get to teach our children at school. So we do the homework. So
Yep.
it's not a continuous all day kind of thing. So therefore they get the majority at school. We get to help with homework and the extra added, because it's not just up to the teachers to teach our children everything, right? It's up to the rest of us
Yeah.
as parents or community as well to incorporate even real life lessons. But now, because you don't have all that separation, it's like you feel like everything's on you. So how do you see, and how have you been assisting everyone to start to migrate their mindset out? Because we talked about this last time. We said all this anxiety and burnout is not just from this last 6 months of COVID-19. All of the stress and anxiety started in the fall in the northern hemisphere, spring for this or some other hemisphere. But you have the holiday seasons that come in from many different religious values, many different backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, right? So you have this major holiday season coming in. You have the quote unquote tax season. So actually it's been like 9 months. So we've created habits of our mindset now, and we don't know how to get out of it. So since we talked about it last week, and we were on when you were on Enlightened Circles in the evening, what are some major things that you can say as, hey guys, these are ways to migrate your mindset out of this and migrate yourself back into what your normal life could have, should have been with these new adaptations?
I think it's really important that we actually look for what was good about lockdown, stay at home, all these different things, and which things did you pick up that really benefited you in that time when you were isolated or limited to who you could spend time with. If your, home life, whether that's a family life or just you and your spouse, has improved in certain ways, then you don't want to lose that when we go back to more normal sort of patterns. So yesterday it was announced that we will have to wear face masks when we are in shops, from the 24th of July here in the UK. So you go through that whole, it's where are your values?
Right.
And so underpinning everything, for me, I had huge shifts in my own perspective when I found my reason to breathe, that why, that purpose for my life. But it was also came with the realization that for a number of years, I hadn't been true to my values. Those things that were important to me had fallen by the wayside and been taken over by things that weren't actually that important to me, but that I was giving all my attention to. And so, to anyone listening to this, do you know what your top 5 values are for your life? And which 3 of those are pretty much non negotiable? And if you know them, you can use them to help you through this period.
Beautiful.
For me, I realized definitely at the beginning of this year that I wanted more time with family. Now, COVID-19 had a very strange way of giving me that, in that, suddenly I had more Zoom calls. I reconnected with my grandmother. We had those conversations. But it is, what happens, family is one of my values, and it's one of the things that's really important to me about my life. Then how do I, when we come out the side of this, make sure that it doesn't ever get impacted in the same way as I had allowed it to be, because my work, because, other things had become, I won't say more important, but just more obvious in the choices that I made. And so you can get a list of values, Google list of values or values list, and then actually go through and see which ones resonate with you, which ones actually, would you not be able to give up? Is it family? Is it, career success? Is it financial freedom? It's those things that, you are so driven to have in your life. And then start making decisions about your life to make sure that those are actually reflected. So if you are a team-oriented person, for example, and you're in a job where you work on your own, then that will cause you stress whether you know it or not.
Mm-hmm. So you guys out there, what are some of your 5? I mean, I see that some of you that normally jump in and text in and share with the community, the Enlightened Circle community, right? And Migrate Your Mindset. Some of you guys are out there and live. So if you're live with us now, and any of you who watch this later, type in what are some of your things either that you've learned, your positive lessons that you learned from burnout, like she was saying, or those values, those core essential kinds of things that you're carrying through with you that you don't want to be without, right? So I think that's beautiful because you're bringing in that positivity and you're saying, look, these are tools. Find these positive things that you can really hang on to. And now as you rebuild and remold and migrate your mindset through this, these are the goals. These are the energy that you get to hold on to. These are these beautiful, amazing things that you get to bring in and incorporate into your new you, right? And that's the most important thing, because we're always trying to rebuild ourselves, reestablish ourselves, right? Be our new you, right?
Yeah.
There's the part of us that's still always there, that core and that essence, but it's about always creating something a lot better, being better. And, Juliet is saying family. And I love that, because family is important, and it is a foundation, it is a basis. So whether it be the family you came from, the family that you biologically are creating, and or the emotional, like your new friend family, because we have soul family, and sometimes it's not always a biological family that's our family, that's what we don't like. Sarah Ross is part of my family, right? And so since we met in India when we were out there to go speak, we met, and it was just like, okay. And it's that family that you can have around you. That's that positive family that takes you forward in life. So thank you, Juliet, for sharing that, because family is important, and family comes in so many different ways and forms, and they can spur us forward in such a beautiful, positive way with love and support through whatever we're going through. And, some of you had shared last time when we had Sarah on about your depression, your anxieties, different things that are going on. Gilbert saying that health is important. Thank you, Gilbert. health is important out there, right? And it is something that we can bring forward, especially now we've had this time to kind of maybe not be eating out at restaurants and be home and start to cook again, start to eat healthy, clean. So this is kind of a gift that it's time to really reset and reinvest in yourself and your health. And health is, when we talk about abundance, and let's bring abundance in. Let's bring abundance in, because abundance is not just financial. It can be energetic abundance. It can be emotional abundance, financial abundance, abundance in love, romance, abundance comes in so many different ways or format. How is it that we migrate our mindset out of burnout to tap into that abundance? And when you're in those lower, darker, deeper spots, because sometimes the same things that we want to move out of are the same things that maybe quote unquote caused our stress emotionally and that burnout to come, like finances, or we can't find love, or things aren't functioning right in relationships, whatever it might be, family. So sometimes the same things that we deserve to be abundant in are the things that we've allowed that to become our stress and our burnout. So how do we identify it? Then how do we deal with it, and how do we move on out, migrate on out of it?
Okay, so the first thing is, if you know that health or family are some of your top values and are the things that are incredibly important to you, then those are the things to look for in, as you go back and think about what happened during COVID-19, were those the things that you valued most in lockdown or in the decisions that you made? And then as you're going forward, what does your normal look like? Because we're in a, I was talking to someone earlier, and it's like there's certain terms that are becoming a little bit like COVID bingo, and unprecedented times is one of them. And I've just said it. But we are in a time in history where we are probably all free to make choices about who we want to be and what's important to us, probably more so than in any other time. Because we are now being allowed to decide what is our reaction to the stress of COVID, what is our position on security in terms of masks, or do I shelter for longer? Do I not go out to restaurants and eat? Do I, continue to almost self-isolate because I am shielding with somebody else? These are all decisions that previously we wouldn't really have given much thought to, but they are underpinning some of our most, some of our biggest beliefs and values about our lives are the things that we now actually get to focus on. So assuming that we have actually, understood what's important to us, migrating that out is then looking at the perspective. What are you looking at it from? If you're looking at it from that lack and scarcity, then, that's what's going to keep coming. But if, family, health, abundance are all good examples of this. If you focus on the fact that your whole family has got through COVID-19 and everyone is happy and healthy, then it becomes about the gratitude for what you have.
Yeah.
And taking that time to be thankful for the fact that you're all healthy, the fact that nobody has killed each other in that small space that you were trapped in, that you have had food to eat, that you have been able to get some exercise, that you have been able to start new habits. They're all things to be incredibly grateful for. And using that, you can then build on what comes going forward. What are you looking forward to? And then give gratitude for those things coming to you in the next few months, in the year ahead, for instance.
Yes.
This isn't going to change overnight. The same way as you don't burn out overnight, the changes and the mental health impact that you can have by being grateful, by being positive. And yeah, it's tough. And, financially, there's a lot of people struggling after this, but there are still always things to be grateful for.
Well, and let's go into the financial struggle. And I'm not saying that it's easy, everybody. I mean, I've been there myself. We're all looking at this in different ways, our own perspective ways. Even entrepreneurs are having problems. people who had the 8 to 5, like you said, the swipe card kind of job. Everyone's having problems with this going on. But at the same time, we can migrate our mindset and say as well, well, I always wanted to do XYZ kind of project or something else. And this is also a time that you can start this up. If you were an entrepreneur, interest rates are really low right now, that if you could qualify for a loan and you can get a loan, your Small Business Administration, whatever it might be, like we have it here in the US, that you can get loans at very low price point and be able to launch forward, especially if you're in a niche market, that you're able to service people. And it's not service like what we're doing with transformational life coaching, those kinds of things. But I'm saying whatever product you might have, this is a time to kind of come out. So it's a beautiful time also to reinvent yourself. And you can look at it from that standpoint. Obviously, look at it in a logistical standpoint before you just jump in and make sure you put your whole life savings into something, because we do have money to save. But I've known a lot of people actually that are booming as well through COVID-19, and they're coming out with new different ways. Even people got into the making hand sanitization products, and because they got into it at that point. Yes, is it just momental? Because after a while, the major companies that were already producing this hand sanitizer for the amount that we normally use, they'll probably be the leaders in the group already. But some people really went ahead, breweries, distilleries went ahead and switched their production lines to making hand sanitizer instead of alcohol at that point, and they're still creating money. Other people are purchasing from them at wholesale and going out and selling their items. So, it is a time to utilize your beautiful, unique minds and empower your intuition to lead you on new paths, everybody. So there is positive ways as well. But I love about how we're not just talking about finances. How do you make your family more abundant? How do you make yourself more abundant in those ways as well, and shine within, so that you're not dealing with those stresses in the same way? And those are the kinds of things as well. Like, okay, usually we used to have family time and all we could do is watch a movie. Now we have all these extra hours in the day. How do I bring the crafts back in? How do I bring the board games back in? How do I bring in my educational lessons so that my children now are exposed to a life that maybe I was exposed to generationally, but because my time, I'm not able to do these kinds of things or do that with friends? How do I have my wine, well, or water here at the moment, Zoom conference, right? And still have that interaction. So it is definitely a time for us all to get creative as well and have that abundant energy flow within. So I'm going to ask you all out there, what are some new ways that you guys have brought in your abundance, your enlightened circles, to migrate out of this seclusion circles? And we'll have Sarah share some as well of some of the different things she's done. But how, because I think when we get to connect with other people, we avoid the burnout. When we get more into a specific zone and the blinders come on, like the horse blinders, right? And we are zoning in an idea only of the stress, the anxiety, whether it be because of financial stress, whether it be because now I don't have enough time in the day, et cetera, et cetera. Those blinders come on. So what are some good ways to kind of balance out and still be connected with other people? We are humans. We do like human contact. Even introverted people really like that human contact with their select group, even if it's with pets or, other animals.
So one of the important things to note is, a lot of the benefit of things that we do comes from the anticipation of having planned something. Actually, there's research that proves there is more benefit in the planning and anticipation of going on vacation than there is actually going on vacation. And so with my clients, when we're, at the beginning of that, trying to reset after burnout, and we go through, I have a process called Priority Happy, and we actually, find things that they really enjoy doing. Now, for some people, those aren't things that you can just go out and do tomorrow. It might be scuba diving or skiing, and if we're in the middle of a heat wave in the summer and, my client is an avid skier, snowboarder, winter sports fan, there's not a lot we can do, apart from, fly to the other side of the world if that was a possibility. But what you can do is create that ideal trip. So, if you could go anywhere with anyone and money wasn't an option, where would it be? Where would you absolutely want to ski? Where do you want to go scuba diving? Who would you go with? Where would you travel? How long would it take you to get there? all of those things allow you to create that anticipation, create a vision board, put it on your phone, things that will remind you about the planning of that process. And that can go for any activity. So for families, for instance, next, it's not about not having a holiday this year. Maybe you were a family that always went overseas or always traveled somewhere particular. And it's like, well, why not have an evening where you capture the food and drink of where you always used to go? You can create that at home and reminisce about the good things and what you miss and what are you going to do next time you go. Or if you were planning a trip that's been cancelled, well, plan it again, but plan it for next year and 10x it, or make it even better than you had ever had before. What would you add to it now that you can think, give it more thought or can research it further? What is there in that wine region that you've always been to that you've never seen? So all of these
I love
things,
this because
go for it.
I was gonna say, I love this because with what you're saying, Gilbert typed in and said that he and his wife Jen took a trip from a couple of weeks ago on scheduling from a live that they watched on Enlightened Circles. And so they set aside an hour a day to go to the gym, and they've been consistent for 2 weeks now. And so, but that's like you say, it's that planning, right? And putting it out there and making that be that family time, and it could be with whatever it is. But it's beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. And it's that's the consistency as well with it feels like an accomplishment. I'm sure like Gilbert and Jennifer, you guys probably feel like, woohoo, amazing, because especially here we go back into they're starting to create the new habits. So they're migrating out of that burnout or stress or COVID-19. They're doing it in a healthy way because health, he was saying that health is important to him and them. Now they're doing it in a healthy way. So that you guys are a perfect prime example of a beautiful way of how we can be migrating. Juliet's saying all holidays abroad we're going to be next year because this year we're staying here in Switzerland. Can't complain. I wouldn't necessarily be complaining either.
No, but for Juliet and her family, I think I'm right in saying they have like a holiday home, which they go and stay at for a month or so, and that would, it always becomes an expectation that that's what we are doing in the summer, and everyone's looking forward to meeting, the people that there, or, the things that you always do. And so it's about being creative about those things that you think you won't experience this year. You can still Zoom, have a drinks party, have cocktails with those people that you normally only see when you're on holiday. I mean, be honest, it's not like you're meeting up with those people at any other time of the year, but when you meet up in your holiday place, you talk as if, yes, so Juliet said Atlantic Coast, France. Yeah, so the people that you meet there that you might not see during the rest of the year, well, jump on a Zoom call with them and, share a bottle of wine, whatever you would normally have done there. Yes, it's virtual, and yes, it is a different energy to doing it that way, but it is not lost. It's not something that doesn't have to wait until next year. I've heard people, they will all watch the same film together, even though they're in 4 different households. They're still, they're all on Zoom, but they're all watching the film together. There was a lot of the theaters here right at the beginning of COVID opened up and put things online so you could experience a theater performance. So if you were a theater buff and that was your one kind of break from your life, you would go to the theater once a week. There's no reason why that had to stop.
Right.
Netflix, Disney Plus, all these different things. You can still have that experience. Now, let's take theater. I mean, theater's a good example. You go to the theater, you have pre-theater drinks. Then you sit in a dark room, you don't talk to each other, but you watch the performance. And then you have the break, the interval, where you go and have a chat, a drink, snacks or whatever. Then you watch the second act, and then you do the same at the end. You might go for dinner.
Right.
You can create that in your house. You all get on a Zoom call. just before starting to watch, and I know this because this is the one that's on my wish list, to watch Hamilton. Thank you, Disney Plus. Much appreciated. You know, you all get together, have a chat beforehand. You all watch the first half. You then get back on Zoom and have your interval drinks together. Then you watch the second half. And then you have a chat afterwards, just like you would of the theater.
Yeah,
it's not
because in the theater,
same.
anyways, you'd be sitting silently, and then you wouldn't be interacting till intermission, anyways. So you know, schedule those Zoom calls. But there's so many different ways as you migrate your mindset, and you have a reason to breathe again, right? So you find that reason to breathe. You find what it is that got you going, that got you motivated to do your work week, because your reward was that excitement to be with family, to be with friends for the weekend. For all those of you who can't be traveling, you know, Juliet was saying it's the first time in 45 years that she hasn't been able to go and do this. You know, for all those of us, because I love traveling, whether it be locally or within the United States or abroad, I love traveling. But now that I'm kind of a lot more limited to my travels, this is a beautiful time that instead of just maybe utilizing all that money as I want to plan my trips, I can put that aside as well towards what trips I'm going to plan. So now you can have this abundant little extra account or things in the background going on for these goals as well to go celebrate. But in between, because I'm not maybe spending money to go see Sarah in the UK, or she's spending money to come see me, we can do it in a very time costly way. Celebrate on Zoom, have video chat on Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, you know, all these, there's a lot of free platforms out there as well for people to interact locally, nationwide, internationally, to interact and still have this at a much more beautiful format. And think about it. Now you've recreated your abundance, your financial abundance, to start being able to have those goals set in place. So there's a lot of different aspects. I think it's all about us migrating our mindsets through it, of how to look at it as a positive thing rather than focusing on, I had this trip planned and I don't get to go. Yeah. And I think that when we go in the negative now, for those of you, my biggest, you know, not that it's mine to apologize, but my apologies for those of you who did have certain things planned and it got canceled and they didn't return your money or a portion of your money. That's been, I think, a very difficult thing for a lot of people that had trips planned and everything else going on. But, you know, now maybe in the future we take out travel insurance, and so that we don't have those risks and we can manage that risk a lot better and easier. But as we're going into, we're talking about some of the general things that all of us are going into. Let's go to that dark, deep energetic space. Okay, let's go there, because so many of us have a hidden, I've been very fortunate myself not to be in this place, but I do know plenty of people in my life that are important to me. But some people go down this dark energy hole, whether it be through a vice, whether it be alcohol, gambling, drugs, some kind of addiction. Some other people go down just because they have had so much weight on them, where they go down to a dark, deep place within themselves, emotionally and physically and everything else, and start to deteriorate deep within. And they have not necessarily found that reason to breathe, or not anymore. They kind of lost along the way. So then here comes the suicide or anger. And because sometimes maybe it's not suicide where we're willing to take our own lives or do things of that sort in that darkness, but sometimes some people's darkness and anger come out with projection and negativity, screaming, emotional abuse, physical abuse towards other people. How is it that we migrate out of that? Because I think these are the sensitive things that people don't really want to talk about. The other stuff we're all talking about, we're having these conversations and we can make it a little bit more lighthearted. We can say, just focus that to positivity. And it's a lot easier to migrate those things that were on that little premise over. But how do we migrate that deeper, darker energy back into something back positive, so we can shift out of these low vibrational places and kind of start, whether it be gradually or super fast. And some people can do it super fast. Some people have done it super fast overnight. But other people, it's a gradual experience because it's just too much for them. Otherwise, what are some things you have to say to that? Because those of you who have been out there, we're here for you as well. There is lifelines. There are support lines. Sarah's brings them up a lot on her pages with Your Reason to Breathe. You know, there's suicide helplines. There is, I'm just saying this out loud. I don't have all of them right now. but look them up, Google them, suicide helplines. You know, if there's physical abuse, emotional abuse, if there is child abuse, please contact your local hotline and speak to somebody. Get that shift going. But Sarah.
So I think what it's, you know, you touched on it. There are some people who can very, you know, super quickly switch out of it, you know, because there is one thing or one point that actually just flicks that switch for them. And they're like, oh my goodness, how have I been such an idiot? And that life changes, you know. And there are people who can say, you know, they go cold turkey. They realize that their drinking has become a problem, or, you know, whatever vice they've been in, and they just decide to stop. And for some people it works, and for other people it doesn't. You know, other people need guidance, help, to actually make that change. I think it's, you know, mine, for instance, you know, it didn't change overnight. It took 6 months before I would even open up about what was really going on in my life. But I had been doing healings, you know, activities and exercises and sessions for all of that time. But it was still, you know, things were still happening that were causing me to go to that dark place again. And it's not about, you know, saying, well, just snap out of it or whatever. It's allowing people to make those changes and to do it in such small increments that almost feel like you're not moving, but you really, really are. So, you know, when I like first started to figure out what my path truly was, I realized I hadn't been reading. And that was a really, you know, that was a really important thing for me as I had been growing up. But I had got to that place where painkillers and, you know, dark thoughts and planning my own, you know, end date were all in my life. Now, it didn't go by me picking up, you know, a book, reading it, going, I'm better, everything's good. It was very gradual in that, you know, if I could just read one page a day, it was that sense of accomplishment, that sense of having done something positive. There's a motivational speech, and I can't remember the guy's name, but I think he's a general. I probably got that wrong too. But he says that, you know, every single day when you get up, make your bed. Because no matter how the day goes afterwards, you have accomplished something that day. And so for everybody, it's really about, you know, we need to celebrate. You know, we're not talking about champagne, party, whatever, but being good to ourselves about what we did accomplish today. Not being hard on ourselves because we didn't do something that was on our to-do list, or we forgot to do something, or we were in a dark place. And actually, the fact that we got out of bed today is the biggest achievement possible. So if you got out of bed and made your bed, be proud of yourself. You know, this is about that self-worth, that's, you know, feelings about ourselves. If you can have pride in something you did, it doesn't matter what it is, but it's those triggers that it sends to the body and how our body then works that says, I've done something good today. I've achieved something. I've accomplished something. And for me, you know, I picked up that, you know, that first book, and I may have read a page, and it felt like literally swimming in treacle, as we would say over here. I mean, or are you guys over the pond swimming in something like molasses, or, you know, thick, sticky
Mud.
That's, you know, that's what we're talking about. Every stroke feels like an absolute nightmare, and you're not getting anywhere, and it's so slow. But by the end of that first month, reading for 20 minutes a day was becoming part of my norm. You know, I still read every single day. And actually, when I don't, I notice it in where my head goes, in where my energy goes. And so, you know, when we talk about finding that reason to breathe, find something that lights you up. Find something that you actually enjoy doing and that you can just do a little bit of each day. So whether it's, watching a Facebook video that makes you laugh, reading a book, going for a walk, like Gilbert said earlier, going to the gym, those are all things that give us that powerful push that we have achieved something.
Well, and for everybody, it's all going to be something different, whatever it is for you. And don't be so judgmental on yourself because, like you said, that little accomplishment is something magnificent in your life to celebrate and to move through. You know, Gilbert sharing with us, and he says, honestly, what has helped him was watching myself. He says his depression, anxiety, anger was out of control. 3 deployments took a toll on him, and he would cry on his way to work alone, hiding. Exclamation mark. Let's put that in there because he was hiding. And thank you, Gilbert, for sharing this. But talking, being part of Enlightened Circles and talking with me has made things see his life so differently. And Gilbert, thank you for sharing that because whoever is out there, whoever you're talking to, whether it be your spouse, whether it be your children, whether it be a anonymous hotline, whatever it is for you that you get to get this out there, please do so. Please do so because you don't deserve to go through burnout, stress, anxiety, depression, those low, dark places alone, nor do you deserve to be consumed by that negative energy, that negative, dark energy, because then we feel like we're always battling a demon. And, you feel like, do I have a demon in me? Do I have a curse on me? What's going on? And so many of us go there because we're looking for these explanations. And last night I was just on the curiosity theory after Enlightened Circles. I went on the curiosity theory with Martin Lopez, and it was talking about why do people lie? And you're going to say, well, wait a second, that doesn't have anything to do with burnout, right? But it really does, because at the end of the day, what we're saying is if you're not standing in your truth, we start lying to ourselves. Mm-hmm. And as we lie to ourselves, it takes one lie, and then we have to maintain that lie. And then as we maintain that lie, it's that negative energy that's always cycling within us, right? That lie cycling, it's always looming. Then we create another lie to maintain that lie, and it keeps going. And especially when it has something to do with stress and anxiety, and people say, well, how are you feeling today? Because see, it's an invisible, and it's an invisible disease. It's an invisible illness that's going on. When I broke my arm, you see my arm hanging in the sling and people are like, oh, are you okay? They can see me in pain. But when there is emotional stress, anxiety, pain, issues going on in the background or spiritual type of stuff, I'm okay. I'm fine. So people take it as your word, but we are telling a lie, and we're more so lying to ourselves because it is your time to reach out. So I want to highly encourage each and every single one of you, because you are amazing. You're divine. You have beautiful souls. You have beautiful lives. Even if you don't see it that way at this time, honor it. Allow other people that do see all your beauty, allow the other people that are around you that do see how amazing and great you are to empower you. And I'm not saying stop the lies, but stop the lies to yourself. Get the help you deserve and you need, because each one of you have such amazing things to share with the rest of us. And like Sarah says, if it's a book, whatever it is, if it's journaling, because you're just not ready to face it. But there are anonymous places out there that you could be contacting and discussing things and getting that help that get you through that to that next page. Yeah. And each one of you have so much beauty, so much light to share. And I'm honored that each one of you that are here today or watching this later are here with us now, and that you are sharing your light with so many other people. And like Gilbert, thank you for standing in that truth and sharing it. And Sarah, you as well. Thank you. It's taken you a lot, I'm sure, to come out and stand in the truth of saying, this is where I was. Like, this is where I was, because you inspire other people on all levels to really see it before we get to any of those points. And that's just that little bit of inspiration we needed and we deserve in our life as well to move forward through our day and migrate it out,
Absolutely. And, for me, that very, I had one of those epiphany moments where it was like my life changed, but I also knew that I was not in a place to make it right myself. I had got myself to the brink of suicide. Now, fortunately, a dying orphan in Vietnam showed me that I had a reason to breathe. That's why I'm here today. It's why I do what I do. But when it came to actually saying, well, what do I do now? I couldn't answer that question because I was so used to thinking about how I was going to end my life that I couldn't come up with a solution that didn't involve that as the result. And it came that I had to ask somebody for help. And that's, we all struggle with that. It means admitting that you are struggling, failing, that you are not in a good place, that all these fears, that those may not be the sides of you that you want to show somebody. And, I reached out to somebody. I'm very fortunate that they said yes, they would help me. And I was able to get the help that I needed. Now, that help had always been there. My friends, my family, if I had trusted them, would have been there years previous to that, but I didn't want to disappoint them. I didn't want to upset them. So I didn't tell them what was going on. I was fine and okay. And if I couldn't even say that, then I just actually isolated myself. I didn't talk to people. I kept away from those conversations. And so it's really important now, if that's what you're struggling with and you are in a dark place and you are struggling with whatever it is for you, talk to somebody. It doesn't have to be somebody you know. If you need it to be somebody anonymous so that you will talk to somebody, then please use any of the services that are available, and we'll try and get some of them listed in the comments afterwards so that you have easy access to them. But there is help out there. Some of you may feel that family and friends are exactly the right people to talk to, and do it. They would all want to help you if they knew that there was a problem. I kind of liken it to, I often use the mobile phone or the car as an example of, how quickly we would look after our possessions, but we wouldn't look after ourselves. Now, if you were driving along and you had a flat tire, guaranteed somebody would point out that you had a flat tire. They would point out that you had an issue and they would probably help you solve it. If you were on the side of the road with a flat tire, somebody would probably stop and help you change it or give you a lift so that you could get that help, because it's an obvious problem. Talking to people is you saying, it's the equivalent of picking up the phone and going, Dad, got a flat tire, can you help me? Or roadside assistance, I've got a flat tire. So don't be afraid, to actually get somebody to help you who knows the answer to what's something that you are struggling to find.
Gilbert was putting, and I put the comment up a little bit while you were saying that, and it went along with what you were saying. He says, I was a glass half empty person. Now I'm starting to see it as a glass half full. Baby steps. I'm crawling before I can walk and run. And I'm just going to say, Gilbert, guess what? In my mind, I think you're running. I think you've already done your crawling. I think you've done your walking and you're running. And the reason is, the reason I'm saying that and I'm celebrating you and what you've been through, and you're being a representative for so many other people, as Sarah is as well, is you are taking baby steps in your mindset. And I don't negate that. I'm saying celebrate what you are doing, because to get even from a glass half empty kind of person to see it as a half full now, that's not just baby steps, that's running compared to where you probably were prior. You're not just crawling, you have already walked and you're running. You're learning to pace yourself though, and that's the beautiful part. So you're maintaining the balance so you don't just crash back down. So that's, good athletes that are runners, long distance runners and everything else, they still learn how to pace themselves so that they don't crash at the end of the marathon, because it does you no good to run a marathon but end up in the hospital, right? So that's one of the things of walking and running to you. And I just like to say, my challenge to you would be, take your judgment out of it, because you are accomplishing so much. Some people, if you only got through one paragraph in your book that day instead of the whole page, Sarah, that is like running that day, because you're in that moment. So it is the significance of that day, that moment, and you're running for that specific day. in the long run, it might seem like you were crawling, but then eventually it's like, oh, there's the whole book, you know? So as we celebrate it, it's a great thing to celebrate. Julie was saying she's still feeling no emotions or feeling.
Okay. It's one of those things. It's not, you know, let's look at a baby learning to walk. You know, they go through that, they want to crawl, they want to pull themselves up on anything. 1 minute they're crawling, and then there's that moment that they walk. That doesn't make them an accomplished walker when they do it once. You know, they still go back and have days where they just crawl everywhere. You know, mum and dad may be like, why are they not walking? Oh my goodness, is something wrong? But, you know, they may just not be feeling the whole walking thing. And I would say, you know, the same. There are days where I don't feel like getting out of bed. I don't feel, you know, much different to how I felt 5 years ago. I'm not in the same dark space, but there are still days when it's tough. You know, there are still days when I'm not feeling happy or ready to, you know, change the world or inspire other people. But I still do my things that I've established make me feel better. You know, so there are days when reading feels like a chore, but I still do it. Because I know whatever trigger I'm giving my head it's still helping me. And with the emotions, you know, again, take away the expectation of that you need to be feeling anything. What if right at this moment, there's nothing to be felt? It's just, it is what it is. And, you know, if you're in a good space, then think about, you know, the days when it's been better, you know, and what was different about those days and how can you bring that in now? And if you are having a bad day, just remember it doesn't last forever. You know, there are good days coming. But on the flip side, if you're having a good day, remember not every day is going to be good.
I love that because it brings in the balance. You know, I like to share with my clients, honor your feelings, honor your emotions, because when we start to place all that judgment and that heavy weight on it, then we don't get to move past it, that energy. So if I'm feeling like tired and if I'm feeling down, or if I feel like I just need to stay in bed and that's what my body's telling me, I'm going to do it. Luckily I can, you know, like there's certain days you can't, right? You have meetings, you have work, you've got to get up and you have to perform. But then maybe when you come back home, take that time for you to honor what you were feeling or initially your body needed and your emotions needed and your spirit needed. If I'm feeling sad, I'm going to cry. And if I've got to put on sad music to help it trigger those tears and those emotions, or a sad movie, you know, or something, I do it so that therefore I can honor what I'm feeling within instead of holding it back, and then starting to create energetic boundaries, you know, not boundaries, energetic blockages. And then that way that allows me to kind of get out of where I'm at and move past things. And I honor the natural time of that. You know, if it's a few days that you kind of just feel down, there's a lot of things energetically that go on. We've got planets, we've got moons, we've got all different cycles. It's not always about like, you may believe in it, you may not believe in it, right? But there's something in this planet, in this world, in this universe that it's all created and energies all act upon each other. So when we have full moons are releases and you're releasing energies. And if you notice, a lot of people get more emotional around full moons and everything else. We have new moons, it's a new moon manifestation, but we have to release the old to move into that new. And we have that whole Lionsgate portal opening up, right? So it's really a time for us to be putting things into new effects. So like it goes back to your vision boards, right? Even if it's on your phone and you're creating your vision board on your phone, so you have a picture to look at, you have like a file that's pictures of all your dreams, and that could be your motivation as you're moving into these energetic places. We've got solar flares. When there's solar flares going on, you can't tell me it doesn't affect you or me when it affects all of our satellites that are coming in. It's affecting our refrigerators all of a sudden go out of whack and we're like, there was no power outage. But these solar flares affect. So because we are energy as well, we do get affected by things. But sometimes we go put so much weight on ourselves thinking, I'm tired, I'm depressed, I'm feeling down, or I'm not feeling at all emotions or feelings. sometimes it's just something, a greater picture. So I say, honor what you're feeling. And then as we can honor it, we can move through it. We can get through, like you said, we can get through the mud, and instead of trying to swim through it, we can stand up and walk, so we have much more power in our legs and we're not feeling like we're going nowhere. And we found out that mud was it wasn't as deep as we thought it was. So it's something we can stand up and walk through with power and beauty. So I think, Sarah, you always talk about so many beautiful reasons for us to breathe. And one of the things is you bring it in with so much balance. You bring it in with so much love and strength as well. And you don't negate the dark places we can go as a human. And you honor that instead. And you assist us in finding out if we're in the lowest of the low, it's okay. Find the little things that do work for you, though, that bring you back even slowly to where you deserve to be.
You know, there's so many quotes about, taking one step and everything. And it's really to say, it doesn't matter if you are just tiptoeing, but make sure
You're
that you
moving.
are still moving. Yeah.
You're moving. Well, Sarah, you move me, you move my heart and spirit. And I'm sure you're moving everyone else's heart and spirit out here, and motivating everyone as well. So, everybody thank you for being here live with us here on Migrate Your Mindset on Enlightened Circles today. Thank you, Sarah, for being here and sharing your heart, your spirit, and your success, because it is a success. Every day, just reading that one paragraph or those pages were successes that led you to be here to share that success with the rest of us, so that we can be inspired and we can have our successes of the day. And it doesn't matter how dark, how deep, how light, how happy it is. Everyone has some kind of something that holds us back every day. We are human. We do have emotions. We do have feelings. Even when we don't, not feeling emotions and not feeling feelings is still an emotion and a feeling, right? And so we're in touch with that, and we're aware of not quote unquote feeling, but we're still feeling not feeling. So they take that into a positive route as well. And everybody continue to be inspired with what you do. Continue to take those baby steps into the walking, running, and know that even though we're crawling, we're still moving forward. Like you said, tiptoeing, we're still moving. And that's the most beautiful thing. So thank you, Sarah, for being here. If anybody is interested, what do you have coming up that you're doing as well? I'm going to put up your website, Your Reason to Breathe. And I know she's going to get in the comments later on Enlightened Circles on Facebook, on the platform. She's going to be putting up some places that you can go to for anonymous helplines as well, even in the UK.
Yep, absolutely. So at yourreasontobreathe.com/quiz, we actually, we have a quiz that actually shows you whether you are burning out and which factors might be bringing you to that point of burnout, so that you can actually get some indicators of what maybe needs to be tweaked in your life. But also in the Your Reason to Breathe Facebook page, we're going into a time of really addressing some of those fears and challenges that people have now that, they're going back to work after being furloughed. They may be facing losing their jobs, or just, what is the new normal? And how do we, understand burnout for many people, working from home is now the new normal. Many people will not return to the offices that they previously worked in. It's not because they've lost their jobs, it's because how we work has changed. And so a lot of the conversations we've had today about, how do you stay connected and all these things become even more important if actually a lot more of us are working remotely. So yeah, like I said, on the Your Reason to Breathe Facebook page, we are, we're going to have some challenges, some tips and everything around, how to thrive, how to, live a life to your values, according to your reason to breathe, and how to actually, spend most days happy.
Well, I love it. I think you're absolutely fabulous. Thank you for sharing your story, your energy here on Enlightened Circles. We'll be seeing you back here soon with some different topics, because Your Reason to Breathe goes into so many different things. We've been talking about stress and burnout these last couple of weeks and incorporating that, especially because of COVID-19 and where everyone's at. But everybody remember, your reason to breathe can be what's the joy in your life. Your reason to breathe can be your nieces, your nephews, kiddos around, somebody at the store that smiled at you. So take your reason to breathe into your enlightened circles, everybody. So you enlighten your circles, you enlighten your environment within, and therefore we can all reflect that out. Thank you, Sarah, for reflecting your inside and external environment with all of us today and inspiring us. It's greatly appreciated. Lots of love to everybody that's been out there. Gilbert, Juliet, thank you for being part of this as well. Jason, today, and sharing your story as well, and sharing your reason to breathe, and sharing your transformations, because it's inspiring to all of us. So thank you, everybody. Have a beautiful, enlightened day.
Take care.